Hi, I'm Riley McManus. Welcome to Word for Word, where we offer you an in-depth look at some of the interviews with newsmakers from across the region. You'll have the opportunity to hear word for word how they responded to the news of the day. Thunder Bay has frequently earned the dubious title of Murder Capital of Canada, and it's likely that that will be the case again for 2022. There were a record 15 homicides last year, leaving local police incredibly frustrated.
Just due to the size of the Thunder Bay Police Service, serious crimes, whether it's homicides, attempted homicides, aggravated assaults, or the like, they require what we refer to as an all-hands-on-deck approach. We rely on many of our other units, whether it's primary response or other specialized units, to basically collapse in order to support the investigation. There's a lot of validity when you hear about a lot of work needs to be done in the first 48 hours or plus. And that's not a myth, that's a fact. So you do require a lot of human resources, whether it's canvassing, scene security. You're well aware of our issues of having to ensure the sanctity of the deceased, getting them to Toronto for an autopsy because they don't perform those services in Thunder Bay, et cetera, et cetera. So it does take a lot. One of the negatives of that, of course, is the officers that we do use to support the investigation who normally wouldn't be involved. Now they're not performing their primary functions. And we still have our other, what I'll refer to as daily police activities to tend to, whether it's traffic enforcement, neighbor disputes, or just general police assistance calls.
Obviously that number 15 is disturbing. I mean, we haven't seen a number like that. So I'd like you to comment on that. But you also talked a little bit off camera about, I mean, it's not, that's just the tip of the iceberg, really. You're seeing a lot of incidents that require almost as much, if not as much, investigation with the violence. And
it is a disturbing trend. It can be most of our crimes of violence, and this is not cliche, it is definitely tied to people with addiction issues or other social issues. The prevalence of those from the Greater Toronto area who come here to sell drugs is not by accident. It's by choice. The choice is because of the amount of persons who are willing to buy their product and the price they can charge due to the fact that there is a large population here, as we've discussed, that really isn't reported. We have a census population and then we have our real population, which exacerbates this problem. So when you look at the 15 homicides, 6 are directly tied to what I've just described, specific to people coming to Thunder Bay from the Greater Toronto area, for example. Others have secondary links to addiction issues, social issues, and the like. That represents really the majority of the homicides, and others, unfortunately, are what we refer to as crimes of passion. Having said that, you can appreciate that our numbers are representative of a city, or specifically our crimes of violence and homicides that you refer to, are more akin to a city of between 500,000 to 1 million people, and with urban issues. That's not us. And this police service is based on an economy of scale. So our comparators obviously are tending to 2 or 3 homicides. This cannot be our normal because the design of the police service or the funding isn't based on that. And as I described, there's a domino effect of other policing aspects that we are then unable to perform. I think in addition to getting specific plans to how we can address addiction issues, which have to involve bricks and mortar along with people. And Thunder Bay has really neither to address the specific issues. But on top of getting to the root issues, by addressing addiction, you then positively affect people coming to sell, for example, drugs. You reduce the market share, you reduce crime. But on top of that, before we get there, I also believe that there needs to be a re-examination of how offenders are viewed by the courts. And there's 2 aspects to that. The rate that we arrest is incredible, but what's frustrating is when we're re-arresting people who've been released on conditions that include not to be in Thunder Bay unless for a court appearance. So they view the justice system, really, it's not taken seriously. And it's my opinion that the broad brush approach of the judicial system, specifically bail, needs to be reexamined. They use what's called a ladder principle, where they look at the lowest intrusive nature to deal with somebody other than incarcerating them. But it's time that the justice system needs to look at the issues affecting individual or specific communities like Thunder Bay. We have specific issues here that are proven statistically, and I think the justice system needs to react to that and perhaps keep people incarcerated if they continue to sell drugs. We've just had the absolute horrible and tragic murder of Provincial Constable Priscilla. That person was convicted of firearms offenses and prohibited from owning firearms, and was released on bail again for assaulting a peace officer and a firearms offense, and the provincial constable was then murdered using a firearm. Those are examples where the justice system needs to better reflect realities, and in Thunder Bay's case, reflect the realities in the community. I think you can take that point and move it on also to persons who are sentenced. Again, sentencing is a broad brush approach in the country where certain factors are looked at. But one factor that really isn't looked at is what are the issues affecting the community? And sentencing perhaps should be more reflective of what's occurring in the community in order to prevent recidivism, prevent the reoccurrence of these, or to eliminate it by sending a message.
There is certainly an overall trend with the homicides we've seen this year. Of the homicides that we have actively worked on this year, there are none that I would consider random crimes of violence. There was always an interaction, a relationship, a connection between the parties involved, and that's what our investigations have shown. One of the primary factors in the homicides and the violence that we've seen this year is, in fact, the illicit drug trade, either as a direct contributor to the interaction that then leads to the homicide itself, or as a factor related to the parties involved. I think I'd be remiss not to mention the fact that aside from the illicit drug trade itself, a lot of our homicides do involve substance misuse disorders and people who are perhaps vulnerable as a result of those issues.
And speaking to the 15 homicides from 2022, can you speak to clearance rate at this point? How many arrests have been made off the top of your head?
I can say that in the 15 arrests, in the 15 homicides, we have made arrests in 13. Investigations are all still active and ongoing, of course. We remain, the investigation doesn't stop at the time of arrest. There is always more information to be gathered. We always remain open to new information that comes forward, but we have made arrests and laid charges in 13 of those 15.
Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel here?
Well, it's sort of a two-edged answer in that I'm continually hopeful as a result of the excellent work I see being done. So I have tremendous faith and confidence in the officers that I see, not only established in those units, but young officers that I see showing an interest in investigation. Some of the exemplary work that we see being done, primary response, frontline officers being first on a scene, taking charge and laying an excellent groundwork for a follow-up investigation. And in fact, investigations that are conducted not of homicides, but of other criminal offenses, conducted in a very professional manner by our primary response unit. So I'm very hopeful when I see the level of commitment and professionalism, but I would not put on rose-colored glasses when I look at the demands that are being made of these fine people. And I look at the situation in the city, the level of crime, the level of violence. I absolutely acknowledge and agree that these are serious issues and issues that need to be addressed on all fronts, not only in terms of the response of the Thunder Bay Police Service and any additional resources that can enhance our ability to address those crimes, but also at the root cause level and at the community level. And there are excellent people in this community, people who are extremely dedicated to addressing the issues, the social issues that lead downstream to crime and to violence, and those people also need support.
Stay tuned. We'll have more Word for Word right after the break. It may be hard to believe, but TBT still has about 200 payphones stationed across the city. But that's about to change. The utility is preparing to decommission them at the end of March. Here's spokesperson Jamie Smith.
Yeah, so we have about 197 right now, which is a far cry from years past when we had around 800 and even more. So it's just kind of a sign of the times that declining usage has reduced the numbers.
And do you think it's what's the purpose of payphones nowadays? Do you think?
Yeah, so based on what we've been seeing, in some cases, these payphones haven't been used in 2 years. On the highest end of usage, it's about once every 5 days. So as a result, as of March 31st, we will be decommissioning the remaining payphones that we have here in the city, which is pretty standard. If you look at other providers over the last decade and beyond, it has been a trend.
Maybe talk about this being an end of an era for certain generations.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a sign of the times. You see kids sometimes pointing at them and saying, "What is that?" But definitely there's some nostalgia there for a lot of people. They were pretty ubiquitous in most communities for forever. But, the CRTC did a study in 2018, and there was around 55,000 payphones left across the entire country. So this has kind of been a long time coming.
And, talk a little bit about, any concerns, I guess, by not having publicly accessible phones. Not everybody does have a cell phone.
For sure, yeah. So for a lot of the payphones that are left in our community, they are in businesses and organizations. So we're going to work with those organizations and businesses should they require an alternative method of access for people. So we've been letting all the businesses and organizations know that this is happening. We have decals on the payphones, as you can see, letting the public know. But also, we work with a lot of organizations. To get people access, they're the subject matter experts, so they'll sort of tell us what people in our community need, and we'll certainly work with them to get that done.
What about like in emergency situations? I mean, like you said, you're decommissioning them anyway, but do you think there's still a purpose for like emergency situations to use a payphone?
Well, again, we are going to be working with organizations and businesses to address that should the need arise. So far, we haven't heard too many issues, so I guess we'll kind of address that as it comes.
And when is the removal going to start?
Yeah, so we have started removing some of them. As you'll kind of see across the city, there are older ones like you see behind me, and then there are newer ones which are called Millennium. Those are the ones with that sort of screen on them. As of March 31st, all of those newer ones will cease operation. The older ones will sort of still kind of work until we remove them. So you'll see our crews out around the city throughout the next little while decommissioning these payphones.
More than 1,200 Elvis fans flocked to the community auditorium on Sunday. Thunder Bay-born Elvis tribute artist Dalen James performed on what would have been the King of Rock and Roll's 88th birthday.
Well, it's real important for me to be able to come back home. All the international work I had done in the past prior to COVID and everything, I just knew that I just had to hit the stage one more time and let folks know that how important Elvis is in their lives and in mine. And how important it's been for my career to be able to try and do a respectful and a genuine tribute to Elvis, because that's really what it is. It's all about the tribute and pay respect to the man, especially on his birthday, January the 8th. 88 years old he'd be today. So I'm real excited to be able to be here and to be able to do that. And I'm always happy that they came back, and the fact that I hear the house practically sold out, so we're really excited about that.
Yeah, over 1,000 people here in Thunder Bay to come see your show tonight. What does that mean to you?
That I have a big family? No, I'm just kidding. Well, Thunder Bay is my family, so that would work, wouldn't it? What it means to me is that there's nothing on TV. No, I'm just kidding again. Ultimately, it means, that all the shows that we've done in the past, whether it be a birthday party or a senior home or that kind of thing, it's all the same to me. It's just making these people happy. And as an entertainer, as a performer, and as a vocalist, obviously, you want to get a message across, and it's basically just, love one another and try and show as much humanity and be patient with other people. And, you know, if I can do that through the music of Elvis, that's really what it was about, because he was one of the world's greatest humanitarians. And I want to make sure that some of that comes through in what I do.
Now, you announced this show when you were at the Chippewa Park concert this summer, so you got people a little bit hyped up for January back in August. So.
Actually, I've been having people ask me for years, when are you coming back to the Thunder Bay? And, you know, we had a couple dates booked, but of course COVID kind of changed all that. And I guess when we came finally to do Chippewa, it was, you know, we didn't know how that was going to turn out. We were supposed to have a band for that one. But fortunately, I've got the orchestra with me today. And that's what it's all excited about, is being able to perform with live musicians. And these are an awesome band, the Pink Cadillac Orchestra. Man, they really kill up there, and I really love that, because it makes my work more believable. And that's really such a genuine feeling to have when you're up there and you feel that emotion from what they're playing and what I'm doing, and it gels together like a bowl of soup. It's just wonderful to be able to share that with the audience.
Now, I know that you live in Winnipeg now, but you're born and raised in Thunder Bay. So where do you mainly play now? Do you play a lot of shows in Winnipeg, or are you out across North America on cruise ships?
Mostly in the shower. Actually, most of the shows are Manitoba and Saskatchewan now. Yeah. So that's why it's nice to come back to Ontario. It's such beautiful country up here, and the people are always genuine and loving, and they stop me on the street. And necessarily, I don't walk around like this, of course, but you know, those people that do recognize me, what I really look like, you know, is nice that they will come up and tell me how much they enjoy my work. I get hit all the time at Value Village, so.
So I know that Elvis is turning 88 today, or would have turned 88 today. What's the average age of your fan base, do you think?
Well, we're all children, really. We're children at heart. That's really what it's about. So when you think about those people that grew up seeing Elvis and that kind of thing, you know, they're anywhere in their 50s, 60s that, you know, fell in love with him early enough, and so on and so forth. But it doesn't matter, because we've got fans, even myself, I have fans that, you know, are just teenagers that come to my show all the time. They love Elvis, and it's an honor to be able to say that I at least had a bit of my life to be able to share this skill that I have to be able to do a tribute, and apparently sound and look enough like him to be able to pull it off well enough that people will come back again. And today they did. They came back again. This is I think our second or third time we sold out here, so we're really happy about that.
Good for you. Now, I know that there's a new generation of Elvis fans thanks to the movie that came out last year.
Exactly.
Do you feel that momentum from that movie with your own shows?
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people, well, of course, everybody comes up to me, what do you think of the movie? You know, and I'm really excited to be able to share my thoughts about it. You know, I think it was definitely time for something that wasn't just a documentary, that actually told a story that was something that had some meat to it, you know, and said, you know, what Elvis had to endure being in show business. It's not an easy life, you know, especially when you're under a manager and that kind of thing. And I mean, I've been looking for a manager all my life, and I've had several that kind of helped here and there, that type of thing, but nobody to the extent of Parker. And Parker did a great job getting them going. And it's just something's got a little bit in the way when it comes to business, and you know, it could have hurt their friendship, but I think they still made it through okay.
All right. Anything else you wanted to add to your Thunder Bay audience?
Well, I love everybody out there. Thank you so much for coming back and supporting me. I remember I've been doing this since I was 16 years old, you know, and then went professional in '97. So I can say thank you so much, because truth of the matter is my career would never have happened without the people of Thunder Bay that encouraged me and kept me going. So God bless every single one of you. Thank you so much for all your help and support. I love you.
Thanks for joining us for today's edition of Word for Word. We'll be back tomorrow to bring you more interviews with newsmakers from across the Northwest.